Welcome everyone, this is your OG, Original Gamer, and this is a Godforge video. Today, we're going to deliver another deep dive, this time on brainwave levels and vibing with your gaming experience. Sound a little too hippie for you? I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll be a little bit better prepared as you go out to play smarter. We will also be making a bold prediction on how you might gain entry to Reliquary Secret Rooms and the first Easter egg that has been hinted at. So without further ado, let's jump overboard and dive deep. Godforge, forge your fate. Alright everyone, so here we are, jumping overboard, taking a deep breath, going in for this deep dive. And today we are going to be doing a deep dive, our spotlight topic on brainwave levels. But before we get into that nerdy topic that I'm sure you're all just dying to know about, we're going to start out and cover a few mistakes or possible errors that I've made on previous videos. So we'll just catch those up real quick. So looking over some things, I may be incorrect on initiative and initial divinity as being two separate stats. It seems like they are, but there's definitely a lot of confusion around it and what initiative does. We feel like we have a good idea of what initial divinity does in terms of leading to ultimate use, but initiative is definitely a little bit trickier. We don't have, I think, that fully flushed out. So I could be wrong there. I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer. In addition, I overrated King Tut, Tutankhamun, just a little bit because when we pulled his stats, it was level 4, not level 1. We've adjusted his stats down to reflect what they'd be at level 1. He still stands as a strong attacker, but perhaps he's a little less stellar than maybe previously advertised. So I just want to put that out there. And then lastly, because all good mistakes come in threes, I discussed Izanami in one of the last videos, and I made the error of calling her Izagami, which is a male character in the same faction. Definitely a tricky distinction there to make between those two. Okay, so we've handled all of OG's blunders and missteps. Let's get into our deep dive. Brainwave levels and your gaming experience. We're going to go real deep here on this dive, so let's take a deep breath and let's search for some sunken treasure. Here we are talking about brainwaves. What are brainwaves? What are the different brainwaves? And what are ideal tasks that align with them? So you see here, the brainwaves are, these aren't all of them per se. These are the major ones. Moving from the bottom, which is delta, all the way up to gamma. So quick run through here. Delta is sort of what you go into, your brain goes into when you're sleeping and you're recovering and you're restoring. Theta is deep relaxation or meditation. You can get down into a theta level. Alpha is when you're trying to relax and be calm and creative. Sometimes your highest levels of creativity don't occur unless you're in a calm space or a safe enough space for that to be possible. So alpha level brainwaves correspond with a frequency between 8 and 12 hertz. So this is great for creative work, brainstorming, light meditation, and transitioning tasks. Beta brainwaves are your focused, alert, analytical. This is what you're in when you're in the game and you're in that combat mode and you're fighting to get through it. You're handling logical tasks, meeting, active learning. And then lastly, gamma is a hyper focus, a hyper alertness. This helps you solve complex problems, learn. It helps you reach your peak performance and deals a lot with sensory processing. So that is important in how to optimize brainwaves for specific tasks. So for focus work, you want to be in a beta brainwave state. That's your ideal. How can you do that? Well, here's some techniques. Pomodoro method. I use this all the time. I didn't know it had such a hard to say name, but I used to do basically like a 45-15 breakout, 45 minutes of work, 15-minute break. This is a sort of shortened version of that, 25-minute burst of work with a 5-minute break. So every half hour you are getting in 25 minutes of really focused, solid, high-level work. You take a 5-minute break, you reset yourself, and it keeps you from burning out. You want to make sure you're eliminating distractions using noise-canceling headphones or white noise, or if you're playing like classical music. I play classical music in the background a lot while I work. It keeps me from falling off if I have a long work day and a lot of work. And Euro G doesn't really has a very contentious relationship with sleep. So I don't sleep a ton. I just work a lot. So key to eliminate distractions while you're working so that you can maintain that hyper focus and you can produce at a high level for that burst of time. Some tools. There are oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Caffeine in moderation. Okay, so caffeine actually has some really negative effects if you drink too much of it. It's a very much a substance where you got to be careful how much you take in. How do I know that? Well, caffeine is actually a banned substance in the Olympic committee. Like, you, as an Olympic athlete, you cannot use caffeine because it's so effective as a training aid. It reduces your feelings of pain and fatigue and discomfort. It lifts you. So not only does it give you energy, but it reduces how much pain you feel. So it allows you to train harder. This is why it's banned from the Olympic committee. So you can use caffeine in moderation. Small doses help to boost your beta activity, but you have to avoid overstimulation. How do you do this? I drink a single cup of coffee in the morning, but I don't drink any more coffee the rest of the day. What I do, and hey, take this, if you treat it like a buffet. If you like it and it tastes good, pick that. If you don't, leave it, okay? That's great. So what I do, this is your OG, I use drink mixes. And the drink mixes go into water. Water is the one thing that most of us are lacking. We just don't drink enough water. Our body is mostly made of water. Water helps flush our body, get things out of it. Your body is truly amazing. And if you give it the water that it needs, it becomes God tier. So I drink a ton of water, and to include small doses of caffeine, I use caffeine drink mixes that have a small 60 to 90 milligrams of caffeine in them, and then I can control and ensure I don't get overly stimulated throughout my workday. Tools, focus. There's some music engineering that helps you sustain beta waves, so that you don't slip out of beta and fall back to alpha, or you're jumping up to gamma too often. You want to really be aware of your biofeedback loops. So let's say you're not doing focus work, you need to do creative brainstorming type work. You really want to be in the alpha or the theta waves. A little bit lower stimulation, almost closer to meditation, helps you think of the pool of water in every kung fu movie, and they throw the rock in the pool and it disturbs the surface and you can't see through the water anymore because it's got movement. And this is true with, I think, our minds as well. So when we want to be really creative, it's helpful to drop down into an alpha or a theta wave and almost meditate on the circumstance or the problem or what you're trying to work with, and allow your mind to simply bring forth from your experiences and from your collective unconscious what the best solutions could be. Again, mindfulness breaks, 10-minute meditations, 5 to 10 minute periods where you use them to deliberately shift yourself from beta to alpha. You drop your, you can use breathing techniques. Here this says nature walks. You can have plants and things in your space that help you feel that. You can use binaural beats. So the most basic version of that is a metronome. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It gives you a rhythm to match, and you can use that to help you change your brain waves. One caveat to that: you got to be careful. Just like if you take a drug to produce insulin in your body, if you do that long enough, your body will say, great, I don't need to produce insulin anymore, and it will stop doing it. So anytime you provide an external replacement for anything your body does naturally, you have to be careful with that, because your brain is very smart sometimes, or your body, your apparatus, your vehicle you drive around in is very smart, and sometimes it won't ask you. It will simply make decisions on what it thinks is the best thing for you, and it might be wrong. So these are all ways that you can shift and get into a creative space. Muse headband. This is a neurofeedback tool, so it gives you feedback on what your brainwaves are while you're doing different activities. So you can learn, oh wow, I do best, and I've produced some of my best results when I was in an alpha brainwave while trying to do a really creative brainstorming. But then I realized I was in an alpha or a theta wave and I was trying to do focused work, and man, I was making a lot of errors. I didn't feel locked in. that could be why. Next, deep learning and insight. This is gamma territory. You want to be hyper focused. So let's be realistic. Every human being, no matter if you're the OG or not, you can only stay in gamma for so long. It's exhausting. It's high levels of mental energy. So it's not something you can just stay in indefinitely. So you've got to know that, and you've got to build times where, okay, I need to go to gamma. I need to produce deep insights. I need to look beyond the surface of what just everybody else is seeing and saying. I need to find something deeper here. This is gamma territory. So some techniques to help you get into gamma. Switch between related topics so that you engage this hyperconnectivity. How do you see the interconnectedness of everything, of all that you're talking about? How do you not get tunnel vision and get stuck inside of just the thing you're looking at? That's a practice. Cold exposure, actually, jumping in a cold shower or an ice bath, spikes norepinephrine, and that's linked to gamma activity. Maybe not all of us have a ice cold dunk tank in our office to jump into, but cold exposure does work for that. So if you take like a cold shower in the morning or right before you're about to do a gamma activity, can really help you in transitioning to a gamma space and staying there. Omega-3s are really helpful. They're high in fish oil. I studied kinesiology in college. I was a pre-med concentration, so the body and nutrition is a huge thing I did when I was young. I was a personal trainer, obviously joined the Marines. What I've seen too is that most of the folks in the developed world struggle with a balance between omega-3s and omega-6s. There's a lot more omega-6s now in our diet than there ever used to be, and so the ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s is important. I think it's like a 2-to-1 ratio you're supposed to have or something in your diet. Too many people nowadays are getting way too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3, because omega-6 is found in a lot of foods, and omega-3 you have to deliberately, go take fish oil pills or eat foods that have high fish oil omega-3s in them. Fish oil does not taste great if you've taken fish oil pills in the past. It's like one of those things where you swallow and pray to God you don't burp, because after that, it'll take you down. But regardless, it's a good thing. Your body needs it. Your body needs certain healthy fats and oils to be able to do cellular processes. Like it says, it supports synaptic plasticity. What that means is allowing things to come in and out of your cells more easily, so that you are giving your brain cells and your body absolute optimization to get the highest output out of your tasks. Last but not least, relaxation and recovery. This is alpha, theta, delta, dropping down almost to a sleep state. How can we do this? Breathing is the best way, in my opinion, to manage your different brain levels. Okay, you can use a 4-7-8 breathing. You inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 7. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold 7, exhale 8. Keep doing that pace, that rhythm, and it will help to slow your breathing. One thing that's really neat to note with breathing, if you've studied yoga or any of Buddhist practices or techniques as I have, when you breathe in, you are stimulating the body. It is a stimulating effect, and when you breathe out, it is a destimulating or a relaxing effect. So if you think, I breathe in, I'm stimulating the body, I breathe out, I'm relaxing the body. So focusing on that out breath. A lot of us focus on the in breath when we're doing breath work, but focusing on the out breath and blowing out all the air you have in your lungs, like fully blowing past the point where you think you don't have any air left in your lungs, is helpful. Trains your brain to recognize, we are done the high stress environment. Let's relax. Let's recover. And that's important, because if you don't recover, when I was a personal trainer, right, you don't make your gains in the gym. You don't build muscle in the gym. You build muscle when you're recovering, when you tear that muscle and it heals stronger. That's the way it works. So it's the same here. I mentioned yoga. Yoga Nidra is a guided practice helping you get down into delta-like rest, but while you're awake. Everybody knows how to fall asleep for the most part, unless you're the OG here and you have a hard time sleeping, you have a hard time getting to sleep, and when you do get to sleep, you have night terrors and night sweats and a million other fun, amazing things that they should just make a terrifying game about. But how do you get down into that delta-like rest but still be awake, which keeps me out of some scary dream spaces, and some of the more extreme symptoms of my PTSD. Last but not least, red light therapy. Red light is extremely good in the evenings to boost melatonin and helps aid in delta sleep. So we are deeply diving, I know, but let's move to the next one. Tools to measure and train brainwaves. So neurofeedback devices, what they do is they tell you what your body is doing so that you can say, okay, when I'm doing this, my body is doing this. When I'm doing that, my body is doing that. Oh, wow, it changed. It teaches you. It gives a feedback loop, biofeedback loop, and teaches you. One of those examples we mentioned, the Muse headband. It tracks alpha and theta waves and provides real-time feedback while you're in meditation so that you can see, am I getting better at meditating? Can I get down? Can I control these brainwaves more deliberately and move myself from one brainwave level to another more deliberately? Yes, you can. It just takes training and biofeedback. NeuroSky has a mindwave tool. It's an EEG, very affordable, gives you beta and alpha wave monitoring. There's some apps, obviously, like by the time I've posted this and I did research for it today, it's probably already changing. It's probably already somebody else coming out in this space. It's very dynamic. Brain.fm gives you AI generated music and it helps you target specific brain states. This could be super cool as like soundtrack choices for the game, like depending on different modes you're in and what you're doing, having it make sure it aligns or at least just doesn't conflict with like what you're doing and what you're experiencing sensory wise. My Noise, custom soundscapes that allow you to entrain desired frequencies. So that's all cool, really interesting stuff. Let's move to the last part here. Lifestyle factors that influence your brainwave level. Sleep is number one. Now, I'm not talking about the sleep debuff, but you need to prioritize 7 to 9 hours of delta theta rhythms to reset. Why is this important? Well, when you sleep, your body recovers. That's like your normal sleep stages. And when you go into REM or REM sleep, you are recovering your brain. You're giving your brain that downtime to heal, fix, recover, and to sort out your daily narrative. All the things that happen to you during that day, your brain is making sense of it and filing it into a narrative that works. You have real problems and you get some wild dreams if you are filing a narrative with things that disagree with each other or that aren't mutually exclusive, aren't mutually going to work together. That can create conflict, cognitive conflict, which can then present itself through your unconscious and your subconscious. So here's an example of a daily routine for brainwave optimization. You know, you wake up 7 a.m. Oh, gee, you crazy. Well, I'm old. I wake up early, drink coffee, you know, that sort of thing. But you get up 7 a.m., you take a morning walk. You want that sunlight to activate your circadian rhythm and let you know the day has begun. We need to be in alpha, a relaxed focus. 9 a.m., you're going to switch to doing deep work. You know, this is the day begins. You want to be in beta. You want to be in that analytical space and doing a 25-5 or a 45-15 type breakdown with your working so that you're not burning yourself out and you're able to stay securely in your beta wave. So let's say noon, you take a breather, you do some mindfulness, 5-10 minutes of mindfulness transition to get yourself out of that beta state and back into a theta state. Maybe you have lunch in nature, in a natural space, so that you get really secured in theta and you're in that creative flow. Who knows, maybe the ideas that will come to you during this time from some of what you've been working on in beta during the morning. Like you kind of hit the problems, but you didn't focus on solving it per se. You might find during your lunch that boom, it pops into your head because you're now in a creative, more relaxed state. Oh, I could solve this that way. That's why this is so important. Let's say 3 p.m., you're back to work, you know, in the afternoon, but you're doing, let's say, instead of deep work and analytical work, you're doing a collaborative brainstorming session or like a meeting. You want to be in gamma. You want to be pouring out your best insights for this very short period of time, and then you know you're not going to stay in that gamma state, so you give all you have while you're in it. 7-8 p.m. in the evening, you're doing your yoga, you're journaling in order to help with that narrative building for your subconscious, talking about the day, what happened, and how you see it. That's where journaling can be very kind of powerful. You can, I'm not going to get off on this tangent right now, but AI has helped me with that tremendously. I use a indispensable tool you may have seen it out there already. It's called fireflies.ai. It is my note-taking assistant, and it records everything that I say and do on a meeting, and it summarizes it, gives me action items, gives me a transcript, the whole 9 yards, boom, right after the meeting. So what I do is I'll use this as a tool. I'll pop up a meeting by myself, and I'll just sit in there and I'll talk through what I'm doing and save it, and it's just a video update on the work I've been doing. I send that video update through Slack over to my dev lead in Morocco and my dev team in Morocco, and they get that, and they can very easily get context and see what it is I'm working on, what I'm doing, where I'm getting stopped up, and what I need to move it forward and get this done. So that's how I do things. That's how I use some of these tools, and you can use Fireflies for a journaling tool as well. You just simply talk into a meeting that you've set up in the evening, and you journal your day, and it automatically captures you. You're not writing stuff by hand. OG's not trying to make you learn cursive. No one knows that anymore. I still can write in cursive, but it's a lost art. Moving on, we are deep in this dive. Caveats. Individual variability, right? No two people are exactly the same, or else you'd have the same fingerprint. Brain waves are the same. The patterns differ. Experiment to find what works for you. Your brainwaves may not work exactly the way this is. Now, generally speaking, for the most part it will, but how you transition, what you think works best for you, is entirely personal to you, and you need to discover that. Overstimulation, big caveat we talked about earlier. Too much beta or gamma can produce high levels of stress and anxiety that you just can't get out of. I am a veteran with PTSD. I struggled very early on in my PTSD journey with hyper vigilance, with not being able to turn off this wonderful thing they trained into me, where I am never relaxed and I am never complacent and never allowed to just assume that there aren't threats wanting to kill me instantly and right now. So overstimulation, that is a downside. You don't want to stay in beta too long. You don't want to go up into gamma and stay in beta in gamma too long. It can be counterproductive. You've got to think about, how do I move in and out of different states when it's most appropriate. Same applies to the game. This game mode, that game mode, it activates different brainwaves and moves you in and out of different brainwaves. How do I recognize my gaming personality? What areas are going to be best for me? Where am I going to have difficulties or blind spots? All of that is key. So this all has scientific support. Your OG is not like pulling this out of the ether on his own. It's called brain entrainment, which is training your brain to move between brain waves. Like I said, binaural beats can help in that. It has some mixed evidence, and does report some subjective benefits. So we are going to transition here now. This is what I think it feels like to be in the world these days. The cognitive loading screen, as I called this. There's so much weight. There's so much on us. But before I dive too much into that, strategy-based gaming and your brain waves. Okay, so beta waves we've talked about are associated with active thinking, problem solving, and mental activity. Things like focus, attention, and decision-making skills. This frequency range is absolutely ideal for the strategy games and strategy sessions because you require quick decision-making, critical thinking, and players in this state may feel alert, focused, and energized. This is great for exploration modes, cooperative modes, and combat modes. Alpha waves, right? We were talking about a little bit more relaxed, calm state than beta. This frequency helps players focus on the game's strategy, like overall big picture strategy, and make deliberate decisions without feeling overwhelmed or anxious in terms of, like account progression, stuff like that. Players in this state feel more centered and at ease. If you can be an alpha in combat, that's very helpful. If you're in beta in combat, that's okay. But if you can drop yourself down into alpha while in a combat or a higher stress environment, it gives you more clarity of thought without feeling frazzled and like overwhelmed. So in a combat area, if you can focus on alpha, engagement leads to more focus, energy, better reflexes, decision-making skills. So competitive areas also can improve your communication skills and your teamwork abilities. And if you're an alpha, you tend to like come across less overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, and frazzled. Theta waves. another level down, right? A little bit more relaxed. Theta waves are typically associated with a meditative state. Imagine like going into like a and your eyes roll back and you're in a meditative state. Your mind is calm, relaxed, it's open to new ideas. This frequency range helps players tap into their intuition, their collective unconsciousness, and their creativity when solving complex strategy problems. Players in this state feel more imaginative and reflective. Storytelling works well in this level because their increased creativity aligns with it. They have increased intuition and emotional depth, so that storytelling really ties into that in Theta. Delta waves, like what part of the game do you need to sleep through? Delta waves are the slowest, most intense brain waves we have. They're associated with deep relaxation, with healing and rejuvenation. So no, your healers, they would all be delta wave projectors, you know. So this frequency range helps players enter a state of flow. They become fully immersed in the game. Their minds are at ease. They don't notice that they're in a game. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about delta. Players in this state feel way more connected to their inner selves, to the game strategy, to the legacy of all those who have played the game. This is sort of the gold standard, the holy grail in Avalon terms. And it introduces, we introduce this, in my opinion, to diminish burnout. Because the rest of it is just, the game is just work that we are calling fun. Being able to have spaces in the game where you go into delta states makes it feel like it's not work, it is a game, and you lose yourself in that game. The way you do when you lose yourself in a really good movie or show or something, you just like forget you're watching it, that is delta. Last but not least, we'll touch real quickly on gamma. Gamma waves, this is that highest frequency. This space is good when you have complex riddles, strategic boss fights, multi-layered challenges. I'm going to call gamma waves the Simon's favorite place to play, because that's what he said in his videos. He said he likes complex challenges, strategic boss fights, multi-layered and level challenges. So he likes gamma focused areas of the game. Awesome, so do I. All I would say is we have to remember gamma has a ticking clock of how much time you can safely and reasonably and at a high level stay in that brain wave level. Now, your brain is a muscle, just like the rest of your body. You can train yourself to be stronger and able to better stay in each brainwave that you want to stay in longer, but there's still diminishing returns for staying in any brainwave too long, or trying to force yourself into brainwaves that don't match with your environment. You don't want to do that just sort of like haphazardly. You want to be very deliberate. You want to think through it. So some strategy games that we can touch on very quickly. So like Age of Empires, Civilization, these are gamma wave focused, hyper focused, insight, time limited puzzles, rapid decision making, adapting to enemies, optional reward paths, side quests. This is all activating gamma. Beta, players are focused, alert, they're making strategic decisions. It's rhythm based combat. It's about precision mechanics, timing. Obviously, there's some resource scarcity management, like during the battle, which maintains tension and keeps that beta feeling like that. So you want to provide things in your combat sequences that maintain the beta waves, that don't allow it to slip down into alpha and too relaxed. So I mentioned it in a previous video, like color schemes, like oranges and reds and bright, alive, active colors during times where you're going to need to be in a beta wave. We will talk in a second here about specific colors that you can focus on for each brainwave level, so I won't open that can of worms too much. Let's say alpha waves, this helps promote deeper levels of concentration and creativity. So think of it like relaxed creativity without any threats. Ambient quests for collectibles are great when you're in alpha phase. Procedural generation, moving through, progressing your account. Theta waves help inspire intuition and innovative thinking, so you're solving puzzles and riddles, something that creates creative outside-the-box type solutions, where you also must maybe account for moral weight or dream sequences or abstract art styles. Whispered dialogue, rain sounds, or tactile interactions are all ways you can kind of bring the gamer into a theta space. So we were talking about visuals. Of course, there's sound. There's all the other pieces that interact with your senses to help your brain decide what brainwave should I be in to best manage this situation. Delta waves, like I said, they induce a state of flow. They allow players to feel fully immersed in the game. Skills are very much tied to brainwave level, because you got to change your brainwave level to do different types of skills in the game. And you have to sort of access or morph yourself throughout the gaming experience. It's not a single experience. You're doing activities in your gaming experience, whether it was Raid or Godforge, that go across all of these brainwave levels. That's what makes it a really deep game. Back in OG's day, the game had one focus. Atari's Adventure was an adventuring game, and that was it. There was no resource mania. There was no any of that other crap. We were focused on one thing only. But today, games have to have the depth to appeal to a variety of gamer types, gamer personalities, gamer interests. Pacing. This is really important with your pacing in the game. You can alternate high intensity beta and gamma elements of your game with alpha and theta breaks, just like you would in your workday, maybe 5-minute breaks for every 30 minutes to prevent burnout, using that same idea. If you have combat, that's beta. If you have puzzle, that's gamma. Lore and story is maybe theta. Exploration is alpha. Dynamic soundtracks are huge. Shifting the background music, the tempo and frequency to align is cool. Dynamic backgrounds. So that's where we're going to get into color palettes and lighting to signal transitions. I brought this up in a previous video, but gamma is, again, hyper-focused, insight, peak performance. So colors that you want to use to induce gamma, primary colors would be electric blues, magentas, neon yellows. Accent colors should be like golds and metallic silvers. Your neutral colors in that palette would be like dark charcoal or a deep navy. It doesn't take away from that bright, it doesn't take your attention away from those bright electric neon light colors that get you excited. These are high energy, futuristic hues. They mimic the intensity of like an aha moment. The neon it contrasts very nicely visually with like the neutral colors, and it creates visual processing and alertness. So your brain goes, we need to get into gamma. There's a lot to deal with here. Also, if you have busy screens and lots of things on them, you can trip yourself into gamma as well. Beta, this is your focused, analytical, task-oriented brainwave. So primary colors are crimson red, bright orange, crisp white. Again, think of this would lead up to gamma, so gamma is even more extreme in coloring than beta. Flashing red is a thing that's typically used to bring you into a beta wave. Accents for beta should be steel gray or black. Neutral colors are cool grays. Why these colors? Red and orange increase the heart rate and focus, which is used in action games. Sharp contrast reduce visual clutter, so you have precise tasks. You're quickly cutting to the point of what you're seeing. You're not confused and sorting through the information on the screen for a long period of time. And then, as I brought up in a previous video, post-combat transitions from reds and oranges to greens and soft blues is a way to tell your brain the fight is over. It's okay, we're done. Here's your result. You did good, you did bad. Iterate, improve. Alpha waves, this is your relaxed, creative, calm space. So your primary colors are forest greens, teals, soft lavenders, cool blues. Your accents are warm gold, sandy beige. Your neutrals are off whites or muted browns, very colors of like the earth and very neutral type, like not grabbing your attention. Why these colors? The greens and the blues evoke nature. They lower your stress. They promote creativity. These earthy tones ground players. They give them some grounding in a safe exploratory space. So it's important for players to know, when am I in a safe space? When am I at risk? When am I in combat? That's something I think could be really dynamic and really optimize the situation, the gaming situation. So beta, this is, again, meditative, intuitive, subconscious. So primary colors, deep purple, indigo, twilight blue. Your accents would be like soft pinks or iridescent pearls. Neutrals, midnight blacks, muted grays. Why these colors? Purple and indigo are linked to very heavily to spirituality and introspection. It gives you subtle gradients to mimic sort of dreamlike states. And it gives you a great place for like plot twist revelations, where the plot twist fades from a purple to a neon. So like you get this deep meditative aha revelation, and then you transition to a neon, get them right into or red, then to neon. So you get them right into beta, then gamma. You're like activating, you know, it's like ringing the bell, like it's time to go. So anyways, lastly, Delta, this is your deep rest, your unconscious state. Primary colors, navy blue, velvety black. Accents, silver, a muted turquoise. Neutrals, shadowy grays. Why these colors? Dark blues and blacks reduce sensory input, so it promotes tranquility. There's less sensory input to take in and to deal with, so your brain is like, lower cognitive demand. These accents that we talked about, silver, muted turquoise, they mimic subtle bioluminescence, colors that you'll see in nature. So this helps with like guided relaxation. So that's cool if you're trying to induce that sort of state in the game for the gamer. Rewards per brainwave level. I think this is something that nobody's really ever touched on. If you are in a gamma wave, brainwave state, these are the things that are gonna feel best to you as a reward. Character max builds, statistical numerical analysis, and multifaceted problem solving. You're going to want to unlock permanent upgrades or lore for solving hard puzzles. You're going to want stat bonuses for breaching these really high thresholds so you can make these max builds. You're going to want multipliers that go beyond just, you know, base attack and crit damage. You're going to want things that can make it really more dynamic. That's Gamma. Beta, these are skill-based achievements, so getting things like a flawless victory badge or weapon upgrade or mastery badge for having completed something. Basically, rewards that reward speed and fast reflexes are good, because when you're in your beta state, you're engaging in that combat space. So how well you do in beta could be a great thing that you can reward based on those skill-based achievements. When you're in an alpha state, what are the type of rewards that work best for you? Cosmetic items and skins and things like that from exploration work really well. Secret rooms and content work really well because you're seeing the game in a big picture type thing, so you have the chance to see where secret rooms could it's almost like, I knocked on this wall and it sounds hollow, and there definitely seems like from the outside of this house that there could be a room over there that I don't see or know about. Let me investigate. So you can almost see where a secret room, you know, where is the space that a secret room could exist in the content. That's very much an alpha type of creativity. You could give out exclusive weapons and upgrades that help with that overall progression. Improve resource management tools. Those quality of life improvements are alpha based. They feel good to your alpha brain or your alpha brain waves. Theta, you're in that meditative state. It's really all about the emotional payoff. That's where the storyline and the lore really plays this big role, is you have this underlying current of emotional connection to the game, emotional connection to the community and other gamers, and the emotional payoffs are what the theta brainwaves feed on. Okay, so we have nerded out hard on this topic, and you're OG. I'll be putting out another video here in the future focused on helping you to identify your gaming personality. Like, what type of game modes do you enjoy most? What are you best at? Where do you struggle in games? Where's your blind spots? What do you avoid in games because you just don't like doing it? Know thyself, right? So we'll be here to guide the process, and we'll share in optimizing the ups and downs of gaming in the gacha space. So here, again, I get to my cognitive loading screen. My head hurts because the world expects me to process so much data every day. Every single day. So you have to find a way to organize it. You need organizing principles, and that's what we focus on the most here at Optimized Gaming. And what does that do? Well, your vibe attracts a tribe, and that's what Fateless is doing right now. They're attracting a tribe, and the vibe they put out, the brand they put out, attracts that tribe. So I am going to switch gears now, and we are going to move away from brainwave focus, and we are going to talk about something kind of wild and crazy. How do you open a Reliquary Secret Room? So we're going to let the guesses fly. I could be completely wrong on this, but who cares? It's so much fun to try to guess with very little information and make extrapolations. Of course, everything is based on probabilities and statistics and Monte Carlo modeling for the probabilities. So how do we open a Reliquary Secret Room? Seems like I shouldn't know that. There's no way you can know that. But let's see what we can get into. This is the scene. As I mentioned before, I think Ragewood Gaming and several other content creators have done a great job of really, really diving deep into this space. This is a opportunity of what I was saying, where I see an Easter egg space where there could be a blank space where there could, maybe would be an Easter egg. So let's explore. That's a cool way for people to find Easter eggs. You see in this screen, there are 4 symbols to the upper left and upper right of this bowl of ether. Several of the content creators have done deep dives. Please, I'll drop links to their videos talking about each of these symbols and the mythology and what roles they play. I am going to skip along the surface because they did a much better job on that, and I will just simply reference you to their videos. But this ties into my projection or proposal. What if, and before that, okay, so the 4 symbols. Upper left is the Star of Ishtar. Had a brain fart there. Sorry. Upper left, right here, this is the Star of Ishtar. This is the Eye of Horus. This is the Triskelion. And this is the Valknut. So, those are 4 symbols. They align to something. There's definitely connection. What do they align to? What does it mean? All right, here we go. So what if this is the positioning or the factions that you need to have a champion from? Maybe even this is the order in which you have to have the champions from each of the factions to unlock the Reliquary Room. Why do I say this? Well, in the game screen, and I apologize, I don't have a cutover to it in this, but in the game screen that Simon is on, he shows us, oh, I'm sorry, I actually do have it. Aha! So, in this campaign realm, in this Aru realm, he shows us the game, he shows us certain elements, and this isn't the best screen. I apologize. There was another one I'm thinking in terms of, and it shows, like, if you beat the level, you get 1 star. If you beat the level with no losses, you get 2 stars. If you beat the level or whatever with 4 champions, or you get 3 stars. And then if you beat the level with all champions from the faction that campaign is for, like all Aru champions, then you get that 4 star, and it has a highlighted 4th star. That could be, by doing that opens the Reliquary Room. Sure, that could work. I just think this is a juicier proposal, so who knows. All of its information, all of it's going to help you. So let's say in that positioning, right? You know, in Raid Shadow Legends, you have a team lead position because that's what dictates who's using their aura. So you have a team like leader position. You have position 2, 3, and 4. Let's say if you're about to go into a battle. What if putting a champion from each of these 4 factions in the correct starting position opens the Reliquary? Example. In your starting position, you are looking for a champion that aligns to the Star of Ishtar, right? This is Eker. This is an Eker, a Babylonian, Mesopotamian. Ishtar was from Mesopotamia. So you are looking for an Eker champ that would sit in this maybe first position. Eye of Horus. This is Aru. So perhaps you need an Aru champion sitting in this second position. And this is the third one, is the really interesting one. As I said, I'm not going to go super deep into the background of the images and the symbols, but the Triskelion is curious because the Triskelion as a symbol in my deep research aligns with, I think, 4 different mythos. It aligns with the Celtic mythos. It aligns with the Norse mythos, it aligns with the Hindu mythos, and it aligns with the Greek mythos. Now, we know Hindu Svarga is out, so take that out of the case. So you're left with Celtic, Norse, and Greek. Now, in my research, I really tried to drill down on this. It seems most closely associated with the Celtic, so I'm leaning towards Avalon as the faction that it's aligned to, but this could be Olympus or Asgard. Now, I'm going to tell you why I don't think it's Asgard. The next symbol here, the Vulcanite, is connected to Asgard. And so why would you have Asgard? I think it would make more sense to have the Triskelion align with either the Celtic or the Greek, so either Olympus or with Avalon. But if you had those 4 positions and you were in the starter screen to go in and you dropped in a Ecker champ in the lead and an Aru champ and then a Avalon champ and then an Asgard champ, who knows, maybe that activates the Reliquary and allows you to open that secret room and defeat it and get the rewards. So that is my big, hairy, wild prediction. Please drop comments below what you think. Am I way off? Is it interesting? What do you think? As a community, I think we're going to figure this out. Okay, other sort of projection. This one is even kind of wilder and crazier. But, like I said, who cares? We're in the early stages. It's fun to speculate. So we're looking at the faction campaign screen for Aru. It seems that every faction has their own campaign world that you can go into and beat levels and progress through. It would seem that by progressing through this level, you're going to win maybe Aru champions that you can then, like, the deeper you get into the beating this campaign, the more Aru champions you're able to gather. That would be really neat. So, like, the better you are at the faction, the more you have of the faction, and you're going to be better at the factions you like the most. So I think that's really smart. So the projection I'm making here from this screen, really alone, I'll just give you my thinking. How many faction campaign levels could we be looking at on launch? Okay, so you see Azumu 3-2. I'm assuming there's going to be an Azumu 3-1, there's going to be this progression. I don't know how they're going to group each of these different levels within this overall faction campaign, but looking at the spacing and the size of Azumu 3-2, I can't see there being more than 15 to 20 levels on this screen, assuming that the other ones are either hidden right now so it's not overly crowded. But just the size of the screen, the size of the Azumu 3-2 icon, I can't see there being more than 15 or 20 of those that fit on this screen or in this campaign realm. Of course, they can add, you can expand into the campaign and have a second screen that takes you deeper into this view. But just giving you some really wild projections, let's say that we have 20 levels for each faction campaign. Each level, you can see there, you have 1 to 3 stars. So we have 9 factions that we know about that are going live. So that's 20 levels per faction. That's 180 levels at launch. But there's another wrinkle. So if you look to the far right there's a drop down that says normal. So it's very likely that we are going to have like a normal, a difficult, or a novice, normal, and advanced mode, right? Maybe at minimum 3 modes. 2 seems too little. So I would say at minimum 3 modes, maybe novice, normal, and advanced. So you have to take your 180 levels or your 20 levels times each faction and then multiply it by, let's say, 3 for 3 different levels of difficulty. So now we are possibly looking at 540 levels just in the campaign area alone. Again, these are hairy, wild predictions. They're Bigfoot sightings, if you will. But when else in this game are we going to have the chance to have so little information and make such wild and silly and ridiculous speculations? So we're doing it now. We're just going to go crazy with it. All right. Here we are, wrapping this up. This was quite a big deep dive. It was quite heady. No pun intended. I hope that this helps you optimize your gaming experience. I hope that this helps Fateless optimize the gaming experience. Thank you all for now. Take care of yourself, and remember, play smarter.